Jose's there. He's got Zion. Look out. Oh, window at home. Put that man in transition. Dominating start to the second. 12 for the Pels, thanks to that man.
What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So let's get through some more of the miscellaneous stuff before we get to the more important things in this video. So yes, apparently around 11:20, I believe, is when the Chargers play the Chiefs. Apparently that has been flexed to Sunday Night Football, so I guess it was Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh at that time, but Pittsburgh really sucks, and pretty much Cincinnati most likely is going to win that game, so they opted out for the better matchup, which is obviously Chiefs and Chargers going into that game, most likely. Better records and stuff, so once again, the Chargers are being placed on the main stage for everyone to see, the only game on at that moment, so it's a big opportunity. They already lost to the Chiefs, and I think as of right now, they're one game behind the Chiefs in overall record. I forget what the divisional record is, but because the Chiefs won yesterday as well, or 2 days ago, then they still got that one game lead, but we'll see. It's definitely coming down to the end, as it always does, but at least the Chargers are still in it, technically, as of right now. Then the other day, there was an epic duel between two ex-players from a couple of my favorite schools. So DeMar DeRozan of the Chicago Bulls ended up having 46 points that game, which was nice, but it wasn't a losing effort to the Boston Celtics because Jason Tatum himself ended up having 36 points and 12 assists as well in that win for them. It was just great to see those guys going at it, especially in the fourth quarter and towards the end of the game. It was just awesome. It was definitely worth watching a Boston Celtics game when, you know, two of those guys that you look after are doing good. So I was definitely happy about that. Then Evan Mobley has been kind of on a hot streak. A couple games ago, he ended up only having 11 points, but he did have 8 blocks. I want to say it was against Detroit. And it could be just because they did not select him first overall in that draft. They ended up going with Cade Cunningham. So he kind of got his revenge and the victory against that old team. And then he didn't do as much damage against the Lakers, even though Cleveland did beat them Sunday. I forget when that game was played, but last night, Monday, they did play the Clippers the very next day, so it's still kind of a homecoming for him, the ex-USC player. Ended up having like 26 points and a near double-double as well, so he definitely led that team. I forget if they won or not, but it's definitely one of the higher point totals he's had throughout this whole entire beginning of the season, so congrats to him, the ex-USC guy. Then once again, the Chargers can't have something good happen to them before having something else bad happen to them, so their top defensive tackle, they signed Austin Johnson in the offseason. He apparently ended up leaving with a knee injury. They said he was still questionable to return, so you thought it might be something minor, but of course he ends up like tearing something in his knee. So, of course, he's going to be out the rest of the season, which is just the luck for the Chargers. And there are guys that are there at that position still healthy, but I don't know why they're not playing. And I think another guy ended up getting hurt just working out and stuff. My favorite guy, Tillery from Notre Dame. So, I don't know why he's still on the team, but he might have to be on this team because they might have no choice going into the rest of the year. But overall, this is just the life of a Chargers fan, I guess, like I always say. So we'll see. Then Paolo Banchero, the ex-Duke #1 overall pick, is just still breaking and setting stats and breaking records in his historic run so far in the first couple games. So as of right now, he leads the rookies in 3 or 4 categories. It's points, rebounds, and assists, which is really cool. He's also second in blocks and 4th in steals among rookies. So who knows what those stats are against all of the NBA, but as of right now, he does look like the clear favorite to be the Rookie of the Year, just as long as he stays healthy and it's pretty consistent. He doesn't have to keep up these big numbers that he's been getting, but overall, it's still nice. He's still stepping up. That team is at least stepping up, even though full of a bunch of young guys, and he himself a rookie as well, only 1 year at Duke. But the other day, he ended up having like 33 and 15 in that game. It was the highest 30-point plus double-double by a teenager ever in NBA history. Well, there was someone else. It was LeBron James when he did it all the way back then. So, once again, just breaking records, and yeah, he's just continuing to do a lot of great things. At Duke, it was like you could still see a lot of it there, a lot of that talent. For some reason, it felt, even while he was there, I could tell that Coach K was kind of holding him back for some reason. I don't know if it was the offense or just maybe not trusting a young guy to do it, but he is a lot bigger and stronger as of right now in the NBA, so it's definitely helping him out a lot. And he hasn't been taking off any days or anything like that, or any injuries that have popped up. So luckily, it's going good for him so far. And then Tatum, again, the other day, he ended up having 39 points in that victory for the Celtics. It's also like his 29th 35-plus point game as a Boston Celtic, which ties like 4th overall in their Celtics history. So once again, another ex-Duke player still continuing to make history, especially at a prestigious type of NBA team like the Boston Celtics. So it's a lot of great things happening for these ex-Duke and USC guys in the NBA. Definitely very happy about that. And for some reason, I'm going through the video, and I realized that I didn't even put up that the Lakers, their second win, I believe it was, against the Pelicans. I think I talked about the Denver one, yeah, but I didn't talk about the Pelicans one, and that was the better one because they ended up getting Matt Ryan on a crazy shot for 3 at the end of the 4th to tie the game up, and then they went into overtime and got the victory against New Orleans. And yeah, I don't know why I totally skipped that in the last video for some reason, but yeah, even though it's a week old, that was the Lakers' second win, and they still haven't won since then. So yeah, that's just how the Lakers have been going, and a bunch of trade rumors have been popping up, whether it's for LeBron, AD, Russell Westbrook. Everybody seems to be on the table for the fans, online, getting rid of all these guys. So Lakers fans online aren't happy, but I think we just have to wait and see, hold out, and see what happens. Because of LeBron's type of contract, you can't even trade him this year anyway. So you'd have to wait till next summer. So those ideas swirling around are stupid anyway. So come on, people, do your research. And then Duke football. Yes, I never thought I'd be talking about Duke football ever, because a lot of the times they were just really below average. Like a year or two, they did okay, where they played like against Johnny Manziel in that Chick-fil-A Bowl. But even since then, they kind of went down, and then they fired their head coach who had been there like for a while, like nearly 20 years, Cutler. And they got in a brand new guy this year. I forget where he was. He was at a really nice school. I want to say Texas A&M, but I could be wrong. Excuse me. But he brought in some guys. He's doing a better job at recruiting, but I don't know what they've been doing out there. But this young guy, Riley Leonard, their quarterback, you've heard me mention him before, but once again, he's just been great as well. They ended up getting their 6th victory this last weekend, and if you combine their records from 2020 and 2021, it was only 6. It's either 6 or 5, something like that. So they either already tied it or beat it this first season with him, and that means they're also bowl eligible. So no matter if they lose even the rest of the games going into these next couple of weeks, they still have a chance to play one more game after the regular season ends. So yeah, this Riley Leonard guy is very interesting. But of course, the guy who's getting a lot of news and stuff in college football is Drake May, the quarterback from North Carolina, which sucks because he's going to be compared to Justin Herbert, just with better legs and stuff. So we'll see. And then when it comes to the Anaheim Ducks, yeah, they've been showing a lot of pictures of their retro jerseys, or retro, I forget what they called it, but I guess every team is going to do this type of retro thing, or at least teams that are sponsored by Adidas. And I believe the other day they did actually end up wearing these officially. I could be wrong, but either way, I'm pretty sure they still lost because they are struggling right now when it comes to hockey. So we'll see. And then, yes, USC football. Yes, they were recently moved up in the AP poll, which kind of doesn't matter right now. I know it's the college football rankings, which is happening right now or a couple hours from now, but I decided to do the video now because either way, I think USC is still going to be in the same spot as they are right now at number 8 in the AP poll, where they only moved up 1 spot from last week, or they might end up staying put, because in that AP poll, I was surprised they had Alabama behind USC, because everybody loves Alabama. Any chance and opportunity for them to be in the Final Four, they will do it, even though they did end up losing this weekend to LSU, who definitely has a chance to go up ahead of USC, which, you know, it's pretty obvious because they were ranked number 10, a spot right behind them. But overall, it is okay news going into this rankings tonight. We'll see what happens in the next video. I'll probably update you, but yeah, it's not that bad moving up one spot. I could live with that. But yeah, the other day they ended up beating Cal in their homecoming game, 41-35. It wasn't technically as close as it was, but it shouldn't have been this close as it was because they got into a nice lead and the defense was playing well, and then all of a sudden, like middle of the third quarter, early fourth, the offense scored when they needed to, but the defense didn't hold up and was always letting the other team score pretty easily. And even the quarterback Plummer for Cal, he freaking threw for over 400 yards, and even throughout this whole entire season, he's only gone over 200 yards only a couple times. So USC's defense is definitely very bad as of right now because they are losing. They have lost a couple of their main starters, but once they get them back, hopefully they will be fine. But you just never know because those big games coming up against UCLA and Notre Dame towards the end of the year. And then also, Tuli Tuipulotu was named the Defensive Pac-12 Player of the Week. He had a couple sacks, a couple of more tackles for loss, made a lot of nice plays there. So because of that, I believe he ended up regaining his lead in sacks in the nation overall with those 2 sacks. So that's pretty cool for him. I think he's like top 3 overall in tackles for a loss. But even with his 9 sacks, Colorado, who they're playing this Friday coming up, only have 6 sacks total as a team on defense, which is pretty crazy that one guy from USC is beating an entire team. But that just shows how bad Colorado is. And I mean, I wasn't surprised that Cal still made it a game because they did beat USC last year at the last game of the season when a lot of those ex-USC guys that transferred out didn't even want to show up in that game. And USC was barely playing with like 30 or 40 guys. But yeah, I kind of wasn't surprised it was as close. But I'm definitely was very excited and happy to see that when the offense needed to get certain scores, they were able to get it, even though they were trying to always go for the big shot and missed a couple times. But wasn't ever really worried as much as I was against like Utah or someone else like that. So overall, wasn't that bad of a thing. And, you know, hopefully we get these guys back because I know they talked about, like, Jordan Addison being close to healthy. Eric Gentry might be a little bit more far off, but at least they might get their star wide receiver back, and that could help out a lot because that could be another score or two. You never know whether it's 7 points, 2 more field goals as well, or, you know, more than that. So that's all we could hope for. And then, yes, Travis Dye, the running back, he pretty much has tied a record or did some type of ex-USC record as of right now where it was his 8th straight game with a touchdown, which is pretty cool for running back. But I guess he tied Marcus Allen, who did that way back in the day, which is really cool because he's one of the great ex-USC football players. But I think he was also having a streak as well of having like 100 yard games, and I think he was only like 2 yards away from having 100 rushing yards again in last week's game. But I'm pretty sure he caught a couple of passes, and his overall yards recruited were over. So either way, still a successful night for the transfer from Oregon. He's definitely been one of the more consistent running backs that USC does have on the roster. Definitely very happy and excited that he's on the team with us now. And then some news about a 5-star player. So he's a linebacker, Anthony Hill. He recently had USC a couple months ago in his Final 4, Final 5, something like that, when he was making his final college decision. But he ended up going with Texas A&M. And the other day he actually decommitted from there because they haven't really been all that good, even though they may have been in some games. But it's been a bad year for Texas A&M, and it was bad enough that he already has decommitted. And since USC was in that Final 4, hopefully he does bring them back along. And I'm pretty sure the coaches have been talking with them as well. Coach Odom, the linebackers coach, I'm sure he's been in contact with them anyways, because it's weird how you can still be in contact with these guys if they say they're committed to a school, even though they haven't officially signed. So I guess that's why it's still legal and you can do it. But either way, hopefully this could be a big get for USC, whether it's this December or going into February as well. If they could get a 5-star linebacker, that would be really awesome, in my opinion. And then, yes, Duke ended up playing last night their first game, their first official game against Jacksonville U, and school I never heard of, but I guess they're part of like some lower level Division I area conference. And yeah, throughout the whole game, I think even at halftime they had like a 16-point lead, Duke did, and then they ended up getting like almost a 30-point lead at some point. They ended up beating Jacksonville U 71-44. So yeah, 27-point victory overall. And of course it was Coach Shire's first game officially, like as the head coach of Duke, because he did step in as for 2 games for Coach K, at least 2 or 3 when Coach K had to be out or something like that health-wise, and he stepped in and got those victories, but they technically did not count because he was an interim coach, but this was his official first win, so they were celebrating at the end of that game in the locker room, and it was just great to see because, you know, the guy that I've been hoping would step up is Jeremy Roach, the guy who's been there for a while. He's a junior right now, and he had a lot of points as well, over 13 plus, and then Mark Mitchell, one of the more talented freshmen that no one's really talking about, he even stepped up with like 15, 18 points, something like that as well. So that was cool. And they still got that near 30-point victory. Yes, against a lower team, but that was also without 2 of their better players, and Derek Whitehead and Derek Lively II. So hopefully they will be getting those guys back. I know one might be coming back sooner than the other, kind of like USC status on their players, but we will see, because I know they have a pretty big game coming up. I think it's against Kansas. Yeah, it's in that Champions Classic, whatever it is, where either you play Kentucky, Michigan State, or Kansas. And this year it's Kansas, so we'll see if he is available at that time. But yeah, we'll see. And then the Chargers end up getting a walk-off kick victory by their 3rd-string kicker. So I want to say, because I know the 2nd-string, Taylor Bertolette, ended up having a game-winning kick against Cleveland. I forget if Dustin Hopkins had one. I forget if it was the Raiders, or it definitely wasn't the Chiefs because they didn't win that game. But I want to say this was the 3rd time the Chargers have had a game-winning kick, and it was the 3rd different kicker just because of injuries and all that stuff. And yeah, it was just crazy. This guy got called in, I think Wednesday or Thursday, showed he could do enough, and then he was on the game playing for them. Had like, I think, another field goal, made the other extra points as well. So he did really good. It was just crazy that they ended up having to go with that field goal at the end, because they seemed like they were starting out bad. I think they were down 10-0 quick to the Falcons, but then luckily they were able to come back, score a bit more, and get ahead. But then they kind of just stalled for a bit, and there was a couple weird plays where it looked like Eckler had somehow stood up over a defender who tried to pull him down, but ended up being that his elbow was down, so they called it back. And then there was another player too where I think Eckler again, yeah, he ended up fumbling the ball. The Falcons take it back, but as that big guy crosses like the 50-yard line, he fumbles the ball even without somebody hitting him. But that's why he's on defense, because he can't hold on to the ball. And then the Chargers ended up getting it back, and I think they ended up going down and at least either tying it or doing something. But yeah, overall, it's just a crazy back and forth game, and the game could have went either way, but luckily it was the way of my team, the Chargers. And I forget who they play even this weekend. It could be Tennessee, it could be a couple other people, but overall, it's still a nice stretch. I know they recently said that a couple weeks ago that the Chargers have like one of the easier remaining schedules left, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, because they definitely like to play down to their competition and make the games a bit more interesting than they should have. But overall, yeah, that's just a crazy win, even without, their 2 top wide receivers as well. A couple of guys on the defense missing already because of injury, and still got the victory. So they're at 5-3, I believe, and we'll see how they go from here. But it could be very up and down, as I said. So yeah, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Fight on.